About a decade ago, I was in a comedy debate and the topic was sex is better when you're married. Now, I was in a team full of single people and we had to argue it was better if you were married. The other team, all made up of married people, had to argue that sex was better if you're single. And ironically, my brother was on the other side. Now, during the course of the debate, we pulled all kinds of stunts and used all sorts of props to try and, prove our point, make our case. And I used a vibrator as one of my props. And at one point it was actually sitting on our table, turned on, doing what they do best, wiggling, throbbing, making a bit of noise. Now, my father was in the audience and he was less than amused. But my brother, when he got up to do his rebuttal, came out with a brilliant one-liner and said, "Wow, for all those years when Tori had her bedroom door closed and I heard that noise, I thought she was vacuuming." That's phallic-tastic. I'm Tori Hodgman and welcome to the Smooth Criminal Podcast. Firstly, a huge thank you to Smooth Criminal Groupie Bridget for suggesting this week's theme. And can I just say, what a corker this one was. If you have any suggestions for a topic you would like me to research, please email us at smoothcriminalchannel, or one word, @gmail.com. A huge thank you also has to go out to the royalty-free music channel on YouTube for the dance version of Smooth Criminal used in this episode. Now, when Bridget suggested this theme, I had absolutely no idea what kind of kinky and bizarre rabbit hole this topic would lead me down. Nor did I think for a moment there would be so many crimes involving dildos, but I was very, very wrong. Strap on yourself in, people, for we're about to go for quite a ride. Dildos have been around since the beginning of time and make all sorts of salubrious appearances throughout all of history. Archaeologists have unearthed a 28,000-year-old stone penis that was quite possibly sculpted to be used as a dildo. In 2019, dildos come in an alarming array of shapes and sizes with something literally for everyone. And these dildos are in mass production all over the world. In my research, I learned of a factory in LA alone which claims to produce 15,000 sex toys a day, or to put that into context, that equates to around 5 million a year. And that's just one factory. They say they have more guns than people in America, but I'm starting to think they might have more dildos than guns too. Dildos are indeed everywhere, so it really isn't surprising they've featured in a lot of crimes. They are also so prolific and considered bad news that many countries have passed strict laws regarding dildos. For any travellers listening to the podcast, you might want to take extra care when travelling to the following countries, and my advice would be leave Bob, your battery-operated boyfriend, at home. Pornographic materials are prohibited in the Maldives, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Thailand, I know, right? This one surprised me too. I mean, you could take a suitcase full of ping pong balls there and no one would bat an eye. But because dildos fall into the category of obscene goods, if caught with a dildo, the authorities can take legal action. You will also get into major strife taking dildos into Vietnam, Malaysia, and India, where they're also prohibited. However, India is a little more confusing. Massages can be taken into India, but not if they're phallic shaped. I love that the definition of massager extends to dildos, but now I'm wondering what sort of shaped dildo you'd have that wasn't vaguely phallic shaped. Maybe I need to get out more. Or maybe stay in more. Our first story takes us to North Carolina, where a thief who allegedly stole a 12-inch sex toy remains at large. According to the homeowner, who wishes to remain nameless, a thief broke into her house and stole several items, including jewellery, coins, a makeup bag, an Amazon Fire Stick, and her foot-long electric vibrator wand. Now, I don't know, if my house was burgled, I'm not sure if I'd tell the cops that my gigantic dildo had been flogged, especially if it only cost $30 in the first place. What would you guys do? Would you be upfront and tell the cops? Or keep that juicy little secret to yourself? And in another juicy little tale, Customs caught Svetlana Ivanishka of Ukraine trying to smuggle hashish in the battery-operated compartment of her vibrator when she got to Kiev from New Delhi in 2007. Wait a minute, New Delhi? How did she get a vibrator in and then out of India? Maybe it wasn't phallic-shaped. Got to say though, hash and a vibrator, that's quite a combo, there's no denying. Australia, land of many mullets. And I'm talking the hairdo, not the fish. But Australia, this shout out goes to you. An adult shop on the Gold Coast, Queensland, was burgled, and the offender, who sported a majestic as fuck receding mullet and facial tattoos inked in elegant cord cursive that said, "Never take my soul," and "Death before dishonour," is on the run after swiping a significant number of sex toys from the store. The man asked a worker at the adult shop to inspect some adult toys before he promptly ran off with about $500 worth of merchandise. "We will never take Mullet Man's soul," as his tattoos stated, but we might take those stolen dildos back off him if he's ever caught. Our next story is a little violent and graphic, so proceed with caution. In September last year in Baltimore, Maryland, a 43-year-old woman was on a Tinder date that ended very, very badly. And not for her. For him. The woman was arrested for assaulting the man with an oversized dildo because he refused to go down on her. Ouch. Latifah Smith and 29-year-old Jamal Davidson swiped right on each other on Tinder and decided to meet at a motel for a hookup. And from all accounts, their evening rapidly heated up with them getting naked and getting it on very quickly. Smith asked Davidson if he would perform oral sex on her and he refused, leading to a violent argument. She completely lost her mind and grabbed her dildo from her handbag and beat him at least 60 times, rendering him, in the words of the police, senseless. She admitted to the police to using him as a sex toy as he lay unconscious in his own blood on the floor. But you'll be happy to hear that after being transported to the Johns Hopkins Hospital, Mr. Davidson made a full recovery. Ms. Smith, however, was charged with 17 offences, including aggravated assault and rape, and is currently awaiting trial. Now, the trial was meant to start in August, but I couldn't find any updates. But according to one article I read, if found guilty on all charges, Smith could face a fine of $1.1 million and a total of 115 years imprisonment. Still in kinky Maryland in the USA, a Lexington Park woman ended up in a hospital following a little sexual experimentation. And it's an eye-watering tale, people, so grab the tissues. Maryland police were called to airlift the 27-year-old woman to Prince George's County Hospital Centre after she was injured in an incident involving a dildo attached to a saber saw blade. Like I said, it's an eye-watering one and not from crying. Now, investigators did look into the case, but when the woman told them she suffered the injuries during a consensual act, the sheriff's office didn't lay charges. So no smooth criminal here, but it's definitely about a pair of smooth idiots, so I'm running with it. Now, it turns out the woman's boyfriend, who called 911, admitted to attaching the dildo to the saw and then using this now very powerful gadget on his partner. But because they hadn't thought it through, they didn't predict that the saw would cut through the plastic toy and, well, look, you can work the rest out because this whole story is making my fanola hurt. Over to San Jose, where the evicted owner of a struggling adult toy shop called the Craze for Toys Adult Superstore decided to set fire to the building and claim insurance. Unfortunately, his plan backfired big time when he perished in the fire that he'd lit himself. What a cock-up. And to London now, where Matthew Washington, aged 37, used his own work credit card to purchase 82 sexual accoutrements, where he proceeded to purchase 82 sex toys from Soho's Harmony Adult Store. But here's a twist. Washington's job? He was a detective constable, and the credit card he used? Well, it was a police department issued card, of course. So yeah, not really surprising this guy got caught. So we've heard of a few cases now where dildos are involved, but this one's a favourite of mine because it has a superb twist. At a lotions and lace store in San Bernardino, California in December 2016, a robber entered the store and held the employees at gunpoint. However, while he was raiding the cash register, two brave women decided to ignore his demands and instead fought him off by throwing dildos at him. Go, you good things, go! The pelting of sex toys was so unrelenting, the thief ended up leaving the store and didn't even take the loot with him. I didn't anticipate when I started researching this episode that I would stumble across a story involving a septuagenarian and a dildo, but I did. Here's the story of Nelson Webb Lentz. Now, Mr. Lentz of Louisiana was an avid reader, but after what he said was a bad experience at a Books A Million outlet, he conjured up what can only be described as a rather bizarre form of revenge. Armed with quite an impressive stash of dildos, our mate Mr. Lentz went back to the store and strategically placed the dildos on shelves in the store's religion section. I know, right? I can hear you clutching your pearls from here, people. Imagine going into the religion section, just strolling around, looking for a Bible. As you go to pull it out, you notice next to the Bible, a whopping great dildo. Surveillance video footage from the store of the retiree in the act confirmed that it was Mr. Lentz who was leaving the dildos. Lentz was charged with criminal mischief and criminal trespassing, but was freed on a $700 bond. So that's it for another episode of Smooth Criminal. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Castbox, the Smooth Criminal podcast channel on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter, and on our website at www.pippa.io/smoothcriminal. Please send us an email and let us know what platform you're listening to us on at smoothcriminalchannel@gmail.com. And don't forget to pop in a suggestion for a theme you would like us to cover. It'd also be super cool if you could rate and review and share with your friends if you're enjoying the podcast. So that's it for another week. And remember, don't get hit by a dildo and don't get struck by a dildo, or for that matter, a smooth criminal. Bye for now.